Okay.
Yes, so today's topic is on Asian culture. So this is actually the part one out of two. So next week we're going to cover more, but this is just a part of it. So I would like to begin by discussing what is a culture. So a culture is a way of life shared by a large group of people, and it often differs by continents or countries. So some of the cultures include the language, the food, the value, the art, customs, and beliefs. All of those are part of a culture, and each continent and countries have their own culture. And cultures get passed down from generations to generations until we know as today. And I put a picture here, and it's the culture wheel. So you guys can take a look at how many different cultures there are. And we're going to be basically learning about each country's culture. And if you guys have notes, you don't really need to write anything down for today. Today is going to be a really fun lesson. So I hope you guys like it. So there are these continents in the world, as you may know, and there are seven continents: Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica, Europe, and Australia. So out of these seven continents, we're going to be talking about Asia, which is right here, if you see the global map. Okay, so where is Asia? So Asia is the biggest continent that is covering Earth's surface today. And there are many countries in Asia as well. And each countries in Asia have different cultures. So I colored Asia in red so you guys can see how large it is compared to other continents. So this part of everything is Asia. And then we're going to be talking about some countries today. Well, there are a total of 48 countries in Asia, but the four countries that we're going to be talking about today are Korea, China, Japan, and Mongolia. And we'll talk more about the rest of the countries in Asia next week. We'll only be covering the East Asian part. So I'll continue next week. Okay. So first of all, we have South Korea. So welcome to South Korea, and hello in Korean is 안녕하세요. And you guys can try to say that out loud. In Korea, just say 안녕하세요, and that is a proper way to say hello to anyone. Here are some pictures. So we are going to be getting into detail of the cultures in South Korea. So where is Korea? Well, I drew a little map here. Well, as you can see on the bottom left, there is Ghana in the Africa continent. So I colored that in green. And Korea is over here. South Korea is over there. So I connected a line between the two. And you guys can see it's around 12,729 kilometers away from where you guys possibly live. And you can see how long it is, how long it takes, how far it is from your country, and it's about that far. And then here's a closer look at what South Korea looks like. It's the south part of the Korea, and you can see the different cities and the islands and other properties of Korea. Okay, so we'll first talk about the language. So Korean's alphabet is called Hangul, and it's kind of like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like how you would use in English language, except it's replaced by the Korean language. Well, by combining the vowels and the consonants, you will form words in Korean. So I put a little chart here on the right. So under each character, I put down the English pronunciation. So the first character here is pronounced by K. So the word that I wrote here is actually Ghana, but in Korean. So you can try to match them. So I put the first character here, you can see, start with a K. And then I put this consonant here, so vowel, so an A. So it puts Ghana. So that's how you would write Ghana in Korean. Just a simple example. And you guys don't really need to know how to write them or anything, just showing you guys the basic language of which Koreans use. Okay, that was the language of Korea. And let's move on to the food. So Korean food is very delicious and very healthy, and rice is the main food in Korea. In Asia, generally, rice is the central food and the main dish, and then it's accompanied by other types of food according to the country. Well, a lot of Koreans' meal include vegetables, and barbecue is actually also very famous in Korea, like cooking fresh beef, pork, chicken, and um, Korean barbecue again is really famous around the globe, and you can actually visit Korean barbecues that are outside Korea. And I've seen a lot of Korean barbecues in America as well. So I have a couple pictures here. So if you look at the bottom left, this is a picture of kimbap, and you can see that Koreans use chopsticks, like you'll see with any other Asian countries. And in the middle, we have a Korean barbecue. That is the typical Korean barbecue, how they will cook the meat for you. And then it's accompanied by, again, rice and other vegetables and soups. And on the right top here, we have this shared dishes called banchan. And these foods are typically shared between families. And there are a lot of these dishes, like small like squid legs and small eggs. There's kimchi and there's marinated, let's say, other things like pickles and stuff like that. And those are commonly shared between families. There are a lot of shared dishes. And you can also see the right bottom here, that's a picture of torso rice. It's a rice in a pot, in Korean pot. So you guys should have maybe like a general idea of what food looks like in Korea. So this is how it would look like. And then we also have clothing in Korea. So the traditional clothing is called hanbok, and this is how it is said in Korean. And it is made out of mostly silk and is dyed with colorful designs. And Koreans often will wear hanbok during their wedding ceremonies and also during the Lunar New Year, which I'll talk about that in a second. So I have a couple pictures here. The left one is the hanbok for males, and then the middle one is the hanbok for females. And then I think the picture on the right is a picture of like a wedding ceremony. You can see the female is wearing the female hanbok, and then the male is wearing the male hanbok. So you can see the difference between the two, and you can see how colorful they're designed. Okay, that was clothing, the traditional clothing. And houses, so traditional Korean houses are called hanok, and they are made of timber, wood, rock, and had tiled roofs called giwa. So you guys don't need to know how to say these, but it's important to know what it looks like. And the structure basically looks like this. And it make it very cool during the summer and very warm during the winter. So it has this special design, which is designated to keep the house really cool or really warm, depending on the season. So the picture right here shows the inside of Kiwa, of Hanok, And then you can see the tiled roof called kiwa, and that is used to cover most of the roofs of the traditional houses. So this is what houses looked like um, quite a long time ago. And currently there are multiple apartments, but these are just the traditional houses in Korea. So this is what they look like. Okay, now moving on to the activities and festivals of Korea. Well, Korea, as well as many other East Asian countries, celebrate the Lunar New Year and the Mid-Autumn Festival. In Korea, Lunar New Year is called Seol날, and Mid-Autumn Festival is called Chuseok. Well, families gather together to eat and enjoy in Korea, and during these festivals, they have many games and activities as well. One of the most famous games are Yunori game, as they are playing in the picture here, and the kite flying. And they also do a sport called Shirim, and then they also have traditional dance. So this is what families gather and then gather together to have fun, to eat together, since this is a really common festival in Korea and also in other East Asian countries. So I have a video here, and it explains what Koreans do during the Lunar New Year. So, okay, so I'll play this video. It's a short 2-minute video, so in this video, it's going to tell us what Koreans do during the Lunar New Year, so you guys have a better look at them.
Those in South Korea are gearing up for a 4-day weekend that starts tomorrow as this country readies to celebrate the Lunar New Year holiday. It's known as Seollal here in Korea. Now, from Friday until next Monday, most of the country will have some time to see family, carry out ancestral rituals, and feast together. Our Kan Young-woo tells us more about this traditional holiday.
Seoll날 is one of the two biggest national holidays in South Korea. People gather with their families to celebrate the Lunar New Year. Seoll날 falls on the first day of the lunar calendar, which is based on the moon's monthly cycles. The holidays usually last 3 days, the day before the actual Lunar New Year's Day, the day itself, and the day after. But as this year's Seoll날 falls on January 25th, which is Saturday, the next Monday is an alternative holiday. History books have a record of Koreans celebrating Lunar New Year as far back as the year 488 during the Silla Kingdom era. Traces of Seoll날 traditions can also be found during the Joseon dynasty. For Seoll날, many Koreans return to their hometowns to visit their parents and other family members. So traffic jams are a commonly reoccurring theme during this time of the year, with millions traveling across the country. On the day of Seoll날, Koreans usually carry out ancestral rituals called chare, where they pay respect to their ancestors by placing traditional food in front of pictures or names of the deceased. After that, there is sebe, where children wish their elders a happy new year by performing the deep traditional bow. In return, their elders give short words of wisdom and some pocket money to the young. Families then eat tteokguk, the traditional Korean soup made with a thin beef broth and slices of chewy rice cakes. Eating tteokguk on Seoll날 is considered as adding 1 year to your age, so you become a year older on the Korean Lunar New Year. Kan Arirang News.
Yeah, so you guys could see from the video. I hope you guys could hear it okay. Well, again, the video talked about what Koreans do during Seoll날 or Lunar New Year. And actually, the Lunar New Year is tomorrow. So it's February 10th. So tomorrow, many East Asian countries will celebrate the Lunar New Year. And then that was some activities and festivals that Koreans have. And now I'll move on to the etiquettes. So etiquettes are basically what how you would pay respect and how you would act in Korea. So these are just common ways of acting, which you should keep in Korea. And one of the most common one is bowing to respect the elders. So many Koreans bow as a greeting, and many Koreans, again, like any other Asian countries, um, it's really respectful to bow, and it shows sign of respect not only to the elders, but also elders to the younger ones. Try to find a mutual greeting. And again, you can see in the video before that during Korean Lunar New Year, children's bow to the ground to the elders. And this again is showing respect. And it's called sebe in the video. And besides bowing, people also take off their shoes when they enter the house. So it's a really common etiquette in not only Korea and other Asian countries. They take off their shoes before entering the house. It's for cleanliness. And you always use two hands to receive from elders, which shows a sign of respect again. And you guys could see that many of Koreans' etiquettes are based around respecting to the elders. And it actually came from a Chinese philosopher of Confucianism, but I'll talk about that more in China's culture. Well, this is, again, basic etiquettes that you should keep. Again, the bottom picture on the left shows two people bowing. And then the middle one is just a person taking off their shoes. And then on the picture right top, you can see the children doing sebe to the elders, bowing down to the ground, basically. And then the last picture shows receiving and giving with two hands. So this is basically what you should follow when you're in Korea. And these are basic etiquettes that you should keep. And then the spread of Korean culture. A current hit, K-pop is skyrocketing in popularity. You guys might have heard of it before. Like BTS is really popular today, as well as aespa. And in addition, Korean food has been spreading globally, as well as has gotten a lot of fame in many other countries. So these are some K-pop idols, and the picture on the left is BTS, the middle one is aespa, and the right shows a foreigner trying Korean food. And kimbap especially has gotten a lot of fame in different countries, so many people are posting about it and how they enjoy it and how they not. And then I actually have two videos here, which kind of shows a music video of BTS. So I hope it's... Again, this is, you guys actually might have heard of this before and even might have seen this, but I'm just going to be playing it.
Cause I'm in the stars tonight. So watch me bring the fire and set the night light. Shoes on, get up in the morning, cup of milk, let's rock and roll. Kink out, kick the drum, rolling on like a rolling stone. Sing song when I'm walking home, jump up to the top of the brown. Ding dong, call me on my phone, nice tea and I'll get my ping pong. This is getting heavy, can't hear the bass boom, I'm ready. Life is sweet as honey, yeah, this beach chain like money. This go all alone, I'm into that, I'm good to go. I'm diamond, you know I glow up. Hey, so let's go. Cause I'm in the stars tonight. So watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Hey,
that was just a spread of Korean culture. And again, BTS is a really famous group in Korea, and it is a K-pop group, which means that they have make music videos and they make a lot of music, and it's spreading globally, and it has gotten a lot of fame over the past couple of years. So you guys could see how much Korea has spread, even globally, besides the other Asian countries. But we're going to move on to China. And hello in Chinese is called ni hao. And you guys can see different pictures here, and we'll get into detail about each of them. There are dances and their architecture, their buildings, their current China, and traditional houses, as well as food. So let's get into detail in each one of these. Well, before we talked about Korea, now we're talking about China, which is really massive compared to other countries. So again, Ghana is here and China is here. And it takes around 10,829 kilometers to get from where you guys live to China. So this is how long it'll take, just a comparison. Yeah, this is basically like how far it is. And here's the African continent. And you have to cross over here, across India to get to China. And then here's just a closer look at China, and you guys could see the different cities, a lot of them. And there are these. And capital of China is Beijing. And I forgot to mention for South Korea, it's Seoul. And you guys could see how big it is compared to other countries that are besides. Well, let's start off with the language. The oldest Chinese language, which is still used today, is called Hanzi, and it was a writing system which were used to illustrate the meaning rather than the sound. So rather than having, let's say, a sound like in the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the Chinese language, the written system was used to kind of draw what actual things look like. So I have this character here. It's called Ren, and it means a person. So it's kind of shaped like this. And you guys could see it actually is shaped like a person. So this character here is derived from actually looking at the person and kind of drawing it. So this is the person's leg, possibly. And of course, this means a person. So you guys could see how much it got influenced by the pictures and the illustration of the meanings rather than just the sound. And here are traditional foods in China. And one important thing to note is that Chinese people often share their food with others. And rice, again, is the main dish, like other Asian countries. And everyone takes the amount needed from the center share, which has the main dishes. So I actually have a good example here on the left. On the middle here, you can see all the different dishes, the main dishes like the pork, the fish. And then on the sides, we have each person has a bowl of rice and then their chopsticks again. You'll see that a lot as you'll get to other Asian countries. And you guys could see that the middle table has all the main ones, and you guys can rotate it and kind of share between people. And then I have a couple pictures here as well. This is a Kung Pao chicken, and it's also really famous in China. And we have the roast beef. And we also have this sweet and sour fish, which again is really famous in China. So these were just some examples of what food looks like in China. And then we're actually going to be talking about some beliefs in China. So a famous Chinese philosopher, a person who thinks. So philosopher is a person who thinks really, really deeply, and he was named Confucius, and he invented Confucianism. Well, Confucianism is a practice of respecting elders, as you guys could see in Korean culture as well. They tend to respect the elders, and it originated from China, from Confucianism, and it is practiced in many other Asian countries, like I just said. And Buddhism was also a main religion belief of China. So on the left bottom here is just a picture of Buddhist, and I have a couple pictures here. Here was Confucius, and again, he was a philosopher. And then, especially in China, the idea of Confucianism is really, really strong. So it is almost a rule, I guess, to respect the elders. And you guys should always bow when you're in many Asian countries. That's where it is originated from. So here were some beliefs of China. And now moving on to the activities and festivals in China. Well, the Lunar New Year, as with the Koreans, is hugely celebrated in China, and it is one of the um, most famous holidays and festivals in China. And again, Lunar New Year marks the first day of the year on the lunar calendar. So it's not the first year of the year, which is January 1st. It's not that day. It's actually have a different calendar. It's based around the formation of the moon. I'll get into that a bit later, but the celebrations last before and after the actual day, and a lot of activities and feasts are held. Well, there are people handing red envelope to children from elders, and there are also shooting fireworks, firecrackers, and there are also dragon dances, flying lanterns, and way more. And other festivals like Mid-Autumn festivals are held as well. So I have two pictures here during the Chinese Lunar New Year, and you guys could see how big it is and how many people gather to see this festival. And it is a really, really big and famous in Korea, I mean in China, and also in other Asian countries as well. And this is the dragon dance, which is a really commonly practiced dance in China. And I actually get into more detail about what Lunar New Year is. Like I mentioned before, it is tomorrow, which February 10th. And then it differs by every year. So I have this lunar calendar here. This is actually for 2023, so this is not exact. Well, the Lunar New Year last year was a week earlier, but this week is February 10th. So you guys could see the formation of the moon, the different formations, and that marks the start of the year in the lunar calendar. And I also have a couple of pictures here, which flying lanterns and the children maybe possibly hanging up red decorations, which symbolizes again prosperity. And let's actually move on to the Chinese teas. Well, China is very famous for its teas. Well, teas are made out by brewing tea leaves in hot water. And because Chinese people often drink hot beverages, hot drinks, their most popular drink is hot tea. Chinese people often believe that hot drinks are healthier because if you boil water, it gets more cleaner. So it's a really old belief that came from ancient China. But a lot of famous teas are black tea, green tea, and oolong tea. And Chinese actually call the black tea the red tea, which it has a hint of red. And you guys could see the different types of tea in China. And yeah, that was it about China. And we actually are going to be moving on to Japan. And hello in Japanese is konnichiwa. And you guys can see just different pictures here. And again, we'll get into more details about the cultures of Japan. Well, where is Japan? Well, most, again, of the Asian countries are closely spaced together. And again, Ghana is here, and Japan is all the way over there. And it's actually the furthest country that we discussed today. It's 13,520 kilometers away. And you guys are currently living in around here. That's where Cocoa is. And then you would have to go all the way to over here to reach Japan. And this is just a closer look of what Japan looks like. Here is the country itself. Well, like other countries, let's start by the language. Well, Japanese language have been influenced a lot by Chinese language, and there are quite a lot of similarities. Well, they both were used to represent the picture of an object rather than a sound. Well, hiragana was the traditional language of Japan, and kanji is just the Chinese characters were added to the language, forming what we know as Japanese today. And there is actually a mix between the traditional Japanese language and the Chinese language. So there are many characters that are mixed together and kind of forming what we know as the language of Japan today. And I have a couple pictures here. And let's move on to the food. Japanese people typically don't eat a lot. They tend to often eat in small bits, in small bites, and they like to just talk with others rather than focusing on the food. But there are a lot of good foods in Japan as well. So foods like gyudon, sushi, and yakitori, tempura, soba, and ramen are famous foods in Japan. And again, like other Asian countries, their food is based around rice, mostly white rice, as you guys can see in the picture. And again, it's the similarity of chopsticks. So you guys could see for Korea and China as well, they often use chopsticks. And it is a really common utensil in Asian countries. So you guys will see the chopsticks often when you travel to one of these countries. And I have a picture of sushi on the left. And then this is the traditional Japanese cuisine. And you guys could see also ramens are really famous in Japan. So these are just some examples of food. And now we're actually going to be talking about art. Well, painting is really well known in Japan, and many of them painted in black ink using different brushes. And people also painted on silk, and most were based around nature and animals, especially the one with the black ink paints. So I have three pictures here, and these are really famous paintings that were made a long time ago in Japan. And you guys could see the similarities between the middle and the right one. They both use the black ink as their main paint. And then you guys could see on the picture on the left that they also used like some sort of fabric, possibly silk. And moving on to the activities and festivals in Japan. Well, besides the typical Lunar New Year and Mid-Autumn festivals, of course, Japanese also do celebrate those festivals. They have some special ones as well. So Japan hosts the Sapporo Snow Festival, and it is a huge festival during the winter where there are many huge ice sculptures and even buildings made out of ice. So it is a really, really famous festival in Japan. And again, people make these beautiful and really large ice sculptures, and there are, as you can see, the snowflakes, which are really large, and people actually do make these by hand to have these really beautiful sculptures, and people often visit to look at them. And there is also the Bon Festival, as you can see on the picture below. And it's a typical Buddhist celebration for cleaning and visiting the dead ones. And it often involves dancing and lighting lanterns. So it is also a really, really famous festival and activity in Japan. Well, more about the Bon Festival. Well, the dances, Japanese dances, one of the most famous Japanese dances is called Bon Odori, and it is a folk entertainment during the Bon Festival, like we talked about before. And it is used to believe that the dance welcomed the dead. So it's kind of their way to forming and show their respect and kind of welcome the dead ones. And this is their spiritual belief. So they believe by dancing, the dead ones will be welcome, they come to you and try to possibly have a conversation as well. So again, these are just some dances that were practiced in Japan. And moving on to clothing, and kimono is a traditional Japanese garment, and it is also the national dress of Japan. And it is known with their square leaves and rather rectangular body. And different from hanbok, it's a Korean traditional garment like we talked about before. You can see quite some differences, although they may look similar. And you guys could see that they more have this rectangular shape on their sleeves. And on the picture on the left is the female kimono, and on the middle is the male's. And on the right, again, is possibly a wedding ceremony. The male, of course, wearing the male kimono, and the female wearing the female one. And again, you could see the designs and the geometry of these garments. And yeah, that was just the clothing and the traditional Japanese garment, and still currently worn by some people. And yeah, that was it about Japan. And our final country, our fourth country, is Mongolia. And hello in Mongolian is Sano. And the pictures, again, shown here, there are these food cultures, different possibly architectures, and the nature, and the current Mongolia. Well, where is Mongolia? Well, again, Ghana is over here, and Mongolia is right here. And it's actually right above China, and it's around 10,471 kilometers away from where you guys live. To take a closer look at Mongolia, it's the highlighted section in red. And again, you can see it's right above China. And these are just examples of cities. And again, the capital is Ulaanbaatar. You can just see the tiny star here. It's the capital. And then, okay, let's start with the language, as usual. Well, properly called Khalkha Mongolian, the traditional Mongolian script, also known as the Hurrim Mongol Piched, was the first writing system created specifically for the Mongolian language. And however, currently Mongolians use Cyrillics, which is used in various Eurasian countries. And the Mongolian script looked quite different, and it's on the picture left here. That is the traditional, really old language of Mongolian. But again, currently it got replaced by Cyrillics, which kind of works similar to the English alphabet. The Cyrillics of the Mongolian Cyrillics are pictured on the right. So the A is the exact same as the English language, the English alphabet. A is like that, the capital and the lowercase. And then they actually do have a couple additional, let's say, symbols, and they are used to represent the different parts of the alphabet. And they, of course, have different pronunciation as well. So this was the language of Mongolia. the traditional one and the current one. And then the food in Mongolia. Okay, so Mongolian foods are often simple, but they're filled with variety of meat and known for its delicious noodles. So meats and noodles are really, really famous in Mongolia. And Gultaishil is actually a really famous meat-filled noodle soup, which is accompanied by the fried noodles. And I have the picture right here on the right top. That is of the meat-filled noodle soup. And then there are also budok, which is a traditional roasted meat. It's either goat or marmot meat. And suvan, and it's a national dish, which is mixed with vegetables, meat, and noodles. And you can see that traditional dish on the right bottom picture here. And again, I have this similarity. The chopsticks you can see on the top right here. Again, like I said before, almost every Asian countries use chopsticks as their main utensil. So it's a really important thing to note. And again, Mongolian foods mostly include meat and noodles, like you guys just heard. And as you guys could possibly tell from the picture, the noodles and meats are really famous in Mongolia. Okay, now talking about the clothing. Well, Mongols were originally nomads. So what nomads mean is that nomads are people who move around by horses without a fixed home, just typically to find food. So nomads, they were people who kept moving around, riding in horses, and they did not have a set home. Well, Mongols were originally nomads. Well, the nomads in the past wore the traditional coat called the dio, and many were made out of silk. And again, if you guys don't know what a silk is, it's actually shaped like this. It's some sort of like this texture here. It's really, really soft. And it had beautiful designs and colors. So these are clothings made when Mongols were still originally nomads. And you guys could see the male and the female ones. And then also there are just two people wearing the deal. And then possibly for a wedding ceremony, again, these traditional clothings are worn during the wedding ceremonies. And you guys could see the beautiful design and the colorful tone of the deal, which is the traditional clothing of Mongol. Okay. And we're almost done. I have these houses here in Mongolia. So Mongols in the past, and even some today, lived in tents called yurts. And again, they were nomads and didn't have a fixed house, and they had to keep moving to find food. So it was important to have a tent, not a set house, but rather a tent, which they can fold and move around easily, and they can place the tent possibly anywhere. They will typically place it on a flat land. And the yurts you can see in the picture had white roofs, which insulated with the animal fur, which it is made from. So again, insulation is basically keeping it warm inside. And even during winter, the Mongols would not be cold since, again, the animal fur insulated the house and it kept it really, really warm inside. And it was very portable and really great houses and tents for nomads. And again, Mongols are nomads, so they use these tents to move around and set up different camps, like they say. And the picture right here shows the inside of a yurt. And you guys could see on the sides, they have the beds. And in the middle, they have a dining table where people gather to eat. This is the typical shape of what the yurts look like. That was the houses, and we'll be moving on to the music and dances in Mongolia. And the music and dance were also influenced by the traditional nomadic life of Mongols. Well, many songs were based around horses and plain lands. again, as they moved around plain lands and horses, many of the musics were based around that. And also, Morinher is an instrument made by the Mongols, and it is used in Mongolian music, and it's called the horse head fiddle. And you guys could see on the bottom left here, this is the horse-headed fiddle. And you might be wondering why it's called the horse-headed fiddle. Well, if you look closely on the top here of the instrument, there is the head of the horse. That is the sculpture. Typically made by wood, and it is a string instrument, so you have to play with the bow. And the middle picture here, and also the picture on the right, shows the typical and traditional dances of Mongolia. And again, a lot of these dances were based around horses, again, and plain lands because of their nomadic lives in the past. Yeah, that was the basic music and dances. And now the current Mongolia. Although Mongols were nomadic in the past, there had been some major developments like developing cities and etc. However, it's known that 2/3 of the population of Mongolia still indeed do live as a nomadic herders today. So 2/3 of the population in Mongolia are still nomads, and it's actually one of the few countries that have nomadic people. So the picture right here shows the capital, Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, and you guys could see the cities that were developed in Mongolia. However, still current people live as their traditional nomadic life. And these are people here moving by horses. And the picture right here shows a family in a yurt. And again, a yurt is the traditional houses or tents. And that proves that they still do indeed live as nomadic herders. Yeah, that's what current Mongolia looks like. And that's actually it for today. And that was a really, really long journey. And today we learned about 4 countries in Asia. And we'll continue with more countries next week. But have you guys noticed any similarities and differences? And if you have, can you tell me at least one significant culture from each countries that we learned today? So is someone willing to share what they learned, or um if they have like a favorite country or where you want to go, or what you found the most interesting about each country? So if any of the students want to share, that'll be great.
All right. It's up to you now. The question is on the screen. So can you tell me at least one significant culture from each country that we learned? And then if you have learned something you want to share, I want to see it. Okay? Yes. Yes. At least one. Something that you have learned about any of the countries. We talk about 4 countries here. Japan, China, Mongolia, and what? Talk about 4 countries. Yes, so anything that you have learned here about any of them, you can tell us. At least one word, significant culture. Talk to him. We and talk to him. We are uploading. Wait, if you speak louder, he can hear. Yes. Okay. Korean clothing is what handbook. David, can you hear?
Yes, but what did he say? I
David,
couldn't hear him.
yeah, can you hear? Yes, one of them is speaking.
Can you repeat that, please?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What did he say?
Yes, he was saying that Korean clothing is called hanbok.
Oh yeah,
Hanbok. That's what he has learned today. That is what
that's correct. Yeah.
he has learned today. All right. Any other? Any other? All right. Yes, everything that you have learned today about everything that he has talked about, you can share. Or you can tell him. Yes. Right, David.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they have learned anything today because but you haven't seen anything. What shows that you've learned something?
Okay, so how about they ask me any questions if they have. If they're interested in a certain country, I can explain more, possibly. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
Okay. You have any question for David? You have any question for David? All right. David, they said they don't have any question for you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be posting in YouTube, so you guys could rewatch it if you guys want to. So I'll be posting it. So you can enter YouTube in my channel and watch the video again if you guys want to, or yeah. So